a month ago, I picked up a book from the library. Now, this is novel news because I am not a reader. The last book I read was The Orphan Train, and that was to my sister for history. So here I am preparing to make history by actually picking up a book from the library. Wait, my mom actually picked up the book. Never mind, you can scratch that out, historical authors. All the same, I was preparing to read a book. Now, what was this book, you ask, that actually compelled me to flip the cover and allow the words to enter my brain? It was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Now, unless you live under a rock or are homeschooled, bad excuse, I'm homeschooled. Anywho, unless you are extremely sheltered or care little for modern media, then you have most likely either heard of or read The Fault in Our Stars. The majority of my friends had read this book. It made them laugh, it made them cry, it touched their souls and warmed their hearts. Warmed their souls and touched their hearts. Something is wrong with the sentence and I don't know what it is, but it basically captures the essence of what my friends continually proclaimed in a much less eloquent manner anytime The Fault in Our Stars entered the conversation. So naturally, I just had to read this amazing book that had touched the hearts and the lives of the world around me. As I flipped through the first few pages, I thought to myself, I wonder where he's going with this. Because, I mean, I know that they're gonna fall in love and someone's going to die in the end. Everyone's got cancer. Who won't die in the end? It's almost like the Hunger Games. Except a lot less suspenseful. As I continued through the first third, I began to think to myself, this is starting to seem just like any other mediocre teen romance book that calls itself a novel because it has more than 100 pages. And believe me, I have picked my fair share of crappy romance novels off of library shelves. Back when I actually used to read. So here is this raved about book slowly seeming to sink into the mire of mediocrity. How well? I just kept reading. It was bound to get better after the first half, but no. I got to the end of the first half and I thought, no. I closed that book, handed it to my sister and said, read this book and tell me how it ends. I believe that even she only read the book because I told her to, and society has this thing about finishing books that she felt inclined to bend to. She told me the end, and I thought, I never even had to pick up this book. Ever. In my life. I don't believe I've ever been so underwhelmed by a book before. I maybe even cried. Like, why is it me? Why does this always happen to me? Oh, woe is me to be so afflicted by an analytical mind. So, being the wonderfully argumentative person I am, I set out to tell my friends that I did not like the book. Our exchanges went something like, I did not like The Fault in Our Stars. Oh, really? Huh. I really liked it. Well, suit yourself, I guess. Unfortunately, my friends did not quite engage me on the level I wanted. Well, ex-friends. Any friend who will not argue with me is no friend of mine. So now, I will reach out to the world beyond, who will receive my reasoning without interruption or indifferent shrug. Hopefully. And tell you 6 reasons why I did not like The Fault in Our Stars. Now, I am homeschooled, and I'm smart, but don't take my word for it. She is smart. So there you have it. It is now Hipster Glasses official. How official can you get? But I am not just smart because I was blessed with brains to go with my natural breathtaking beauty. I am smart in one area of my life because my teacher, my dearest mother, made me read and analyze books. You know, pick out the conflicts and the theme and discuss the characters and their corresponding development. We didn't discuss The Fault in Our Stars, but because of this forced analysis, the process flowed naturally and I began to see that there is no character development in The Fault in Our Stars. None of the characters change at all. Now, of course, there are those who are opposed to this idea, and who back up their opposition with. Hazel does change. She doesn't like her life, and then dear, sweet, wonderful, beautiful, blessed Augustus enters her life, and she starts to like her life and goes on adventures and ultimately changes. This is the same as saying, I hate my life. Enter Cookies. I love my life and I start to gain weight. Therefore, I have changed. Nope. What we have here is a plotline that is so dominated by the romantic part that character development flies out the window. And nope. Don't you say, but they're already perfect. They don't need to change. Darling, everybody has something they need to work on. You're not perfect, and I'm not perfect. And even if Hazel and Augustus were perfect, which they aren't, that would just make for an even more yawnable book. Numero 2. Forever. And ever and ever and ever and ever. Ah, forever. That is the thread that unfailingly weaves itself through every single crappy teenage romance out there. Everything is going to last forever because we were made for each other, despite the fact that I only met you yesterday and I don't know you that well and you're my first love, but you could be a drug dealer for all I know. But despite all the hindrances that formulate to obstruct our communication, we'll still last forever. After quite a few panic attacks and some well-aimed disrespects toward the creators of those obstructions, but small matter, we'll last forever. Now tell me, you who swoon over books like this, what adults in your life do you know whose teenage romantic relationships, especially their first one, lasted forever and ever and ever? In the case of Hazel and Augustus, they hit off immediately. After, of course, the horrible trial of the cigarette, which turned into a metaphor of maturity that would frankly blow my socks off if it was conveyed by any teenage guy I know. And I know some pretty mature teenage guys. You meet them in the homeschool world. Who would have known? See, what I liked about the book was Isaac's situation. His blindness was too trying on his girlfriend, and they ended up breaking up, despite the fact that they held the viewpoint of forever and ever. Call me heartless, call me cruel, leave a disparaging comment down below, but that was the one blip of appreciable reality on the entire radar screen of that book. Just think about the expectation that this concept of forever and ever is setting for the teens of today, especially as they enter the world of newfound love. Number 3. Romantic domination. A boy once told me that he considered a romance detestable if, when the romantic aspect was removed, a plausible story was not left behind. I found great truth behind these words. His example of a bad romance was Titanic. Take out the romantic aspect and... I don't know, I've never even watched Titanic, so I don't even know what's left, but I'm assuming that there's not much. An example of a good romantic story, to me, would be The Hunger Games. Think of it without Katniss and Peeta's romantic relationship. You still get Katniss volunteers for her sister, defies the Capitol, starts a rebellion, and changes the world. Now think about The Fault in Our Stars. Hazel and Augustus's love is the plot. If you take out the love, boy, that sounds bad. Anyways, if you take out said aspect, you're left with something like Hazel has cancer and goes to a sucky support group, somehow ends up in Amsterdam to meet her favorite author who turns out to be a douchebag and lives until the end. Wow. Excuse me while I go shed tears for such a stirring narration. Tisk, tisk. Quattro, quattro. Lack of parental involvement and guidance. This is yet another common malady of teen romances. There are so many examples of fictional parents not doing their jobs. Now, I'm not a parent, just thought I'd let you know. So I'm not saying, I have a complete knowledge of the trials and corresponding responsibilities of a parent, therefore I have the right to impart said wisdom to you all. No, that is not my point. My point is that the parents in these books do such a terrible job that a teenager can figure out what they're doing wrong. 3 basic parental responsibilities are to monitor their teen child's relationships and know what's going on, know the person their kid is getting involved with, and yet maintain an understandable distance so as not to make this an incredibly awkward and sheltered endeavor. However, parents in these teenage romance novels either do nothing about their kids' corresponding escapades, form an immediate, uninformed, and often negative opinion about their child's love interest, or get so excited about the fact that their youngster has finally found love that they fail to put up sufficient boundaries around their child's activities. Hazel's mom falls into category number 3 here. As soon as Hazel seems to fancy Augustus, her mother poses no objections to any of their activities, even if it means that her 16-year-old daughter hops into a car with a random stranger, who by the way happens to have a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and goes over to his house to watch an R-rated movie. Great job, Hazel's mom! For all she knew, Augustus could be a murderer, a rapist, a druggie, a drunk. Yes, there are plenty of teenage guys like this who stand at street corners with cigarettes hanging out of their mouths. Welcome to the real world. $5 foot long, Annie. Protagonist perfection. Now, this may be construed as a continuation of number 1, but I've just got to add a brief tirade about Augustus Waters' perfection. While you may think of him as a nice escape from the world of immature, crass, farting teenage guys, and men, but it sets up the desire and expectation of a perfect guy. Now let me debunk a little lie. No guy like Augustus Waters exists in the world. No teenage guy I have ever known possesses that proficient of a vocabulary, is that unawkward about staring at pretty girls and actually approaching people, takes their 16-year-old girlfriend to Amsterdam, and possesses Ansel Elgort's smirky smile all at the same time. And while you may not think that this concerns you, even I, with my profuse dislike for The Fault in Our Stars, found myself longing for an Augustus-like character after watching the extended trailer. But I'm not going to find an Augustus-like character. They don't exist. Just keep that in mind. Number final. Sex. Forgive my moral compass here. It often points due north when I encounter sex scenes such as the one in The Fault in Our Stars. I believe that sex should be saved for marriage if at all possible, majorly because of the extramarital and eventually intramarital complications, which I will talk about in a moment. Nowadays in romance books, sex is essentially inevitable, or at least some sexual culmination of romantic expression. Any hesitance to engage in this sexual culmination of romantic expression is often viewed as prudishness, or don't want to upset mommy now, do we? Or it's some raging epidemic that must suddenly be cured. This disgusts me. Rarely is the relationship built on something substantial enough to last forever and ever, and hardly before the plot gets good, the bed jumps on fire. Rarely are we treated to the effects of sex. Countless STDs and unwanted pregnancies occur every day in the real world, and sex is a bonding thing that makes breaking up even harder and more saturated with emotional baggage. You gotta carry all that baggage into your next relationship. Romance books, however, put in the sex and make it seem perfect, once again setting a false expectation for reality. In the case of The Fault in Our Stars, I know all of critics who say, well, they're gonna die anyways, what have they got to lose? That is a whole different topic for conversation, but in this case the sex scene was a major case of bad writing. See, the sex did nothing to enhance the plot or the relationship. In fact, if those 2 pages were ripped out, no one would notice. Sadly, the same is all too true for many other such books. Sex for sex's sake. Sex that doesn't improve the plot, the relationship, the character development, or anything really. Guys, sex is a serious thing, and throwing it around like it's just another motion to go through and doesn't have any consequences isn't good writing or good anything. And there you have it. 6 reasons why I did not like The Fault in Our Stars. Maybe this will make you think a little differently. I don't know. You can leave hate comments or scoff my viewpoints all you'd like. I don't care. Just remember that if you didn't like this or this offended you, that's the thing about pain. It demands to be felt.